Now, parts of northern England and Scotland have had a fortnight's rain in just one day. More than 70 flood warnings have now been issued, and the torrential rain has left dozens of roads impassable and closed rail lines. In Morpeth, in Northumberland, dozens of homes have been evacuated. It's all been blamed on a low-pressure system not seen across the UK for 30 years. Kieran Jenkins has this report.
The water came quicker than cars could get away. The A1 near Catterick in North Yorkshire submerged as rivers swelled throughout the north of England and Scotland. Here in Morpeth, 100 residents were evacuated, some rescued by boat in the second big flood in 4 years. Come on then, Paul, let's see the damage.
Let's go.
Paul Gilly rushed guests from his riverside B&B early this morning. We're with him as he goes back in for the first time, fearing the worst.
You can see where there's silt, sewage, you know, the raw sewage basically is what it is, sitting on top of the fixed furniture there and the radiators. The shower room here, you see the toilet where quite a lot of the water will actually come up through. You can't move the door behind there, but it's been in the sink. It's on top of the tiled walls there. These walls.
Paul's seen this before. He's saddened rather than surprised, because there are still no flood defences in this part of Morpeth.
You say you're feeling angry, Paul.
Yeah.
Who are you feeling angry at?
Environment Agency and the council. This happened 4 years ago, okay? 4 years ago this month, and all they've done is talk about it for the last 4 years and done nothing about it. They keep saying that it's going to start next year, okay? But basically, they've gambled with our lives in this area in Morpeth, hoping that it wouldn't happen. Well, they argued about this and argued about that and funding this and funding that, and they've been caught out. It's as simple as that. Mother Nature's taught them a lesson.
The Environment Agency says the defences will be built next year.
This is quite complicated. There's going to be a reservoir upstream which will store water at the start of a flood, new walls in the town, and the existing walls will be raised and strengthened.
Could it have happened sooner, though? It takes some time, but 4 years.
Well, they are big engineering schemes, like building a big highway or a big road. You know, they're not easy to do quickly.
Elsewhere in the UK, Aberdeen saw some of the most dramatic weather. Ferocious storms causing damage in the streets and whipping up the sea, which crashed over the coastal wall. The nearby fishing village of Fitty was amazingly covered in a thick layer of foam, caused by the violent mixture of sand and water. Most of the northeast was hit by heavy rain too, as were parts of North Yorkshire, which caused disruption to roads and rail services. Parts of Lancashire, the northwest, the Midlands and Wales were also underwater. About 200 homes are thought to have been evacuated. And the Met Office says some areas could see an average fortnight's worth of rain by the end of the day. In Morpeth this evening, there have been yet more downpours.
The water is absolutely tearing through the centre of Morpeth at the moment. And the concern is that the build-up of debris and trees that have come loose up against the bridge, together with the rain that's continuing to fall, is going to cause this river to swell and flood again this evening.
There are scores of flood warnings in place, with York now thought to be most at risk. Across Scotland and the north of England, they're readying themselves for more of the same. Kieran Jenkins, Channel 4 News, Morpeth.
Well, I'm afraid the bad weather does look set to continue overnight. There are flood warnings in place across much of Scotland, northern and western England and Wales. But once again, it's the northeast of England which is braced for the worst, with 56 areas at risk of flooding. Today, 17 schools were closed in Northumberland because of the weather, and the heavy rain hit rail services in the region. Trains on the East Coast Main Line between York and Darlington were cancelled, and services between Newcastle and Edinburgh were suspended for several hours. And travel disruption is continuing tonight across the whole of the UK, with many roads and rail lines still closed. Travel warnings are in place in several regions. Well, I'm joined now by our science editor, Tom Clark. So, Tom, can you shed any light on what's causing all of this?
Well, it's a fairly typical low-pressure weather system that comes across our country in the autumn and accounts for our general blustery weather. But this one's different for a very important reason. As it came in across the Atlantic, it sucked in this very cold Scandinavian air, and it's made it a record-breaking low pressure. We haven't seen anything this low since September of 1981. And it's it's like a weather system on steroids that's counting that high wind and that intense rain. It's also different for another important reason. It's just sat over the British Isles since Sunday night, tipping rain. And the reason for that is because of the jet stream, this high altitude air system that normally runs way north of the UK. It's got a kink in it at the moment that's holding the weather in place, why it's been so stubborn. Interestingly, that kink was present in the summer when we had a lot of that summer flooding due to intense rainfall earlier in the year.
Tom, thank you. Makes grisly listening, really. And for more on the terrible weather conditions across the north of the UK today, you can go to our website where there's footage, photographs, tweets, all sorts on the weather outlook over the next 24 hours.
The police knocked on our door at about 8:30 and asked us to evacuate the building with ourselves and the dogs as soon as possible. There's basically some underground water pipes that they've been trying to repair over the last few weeks, and with the heavy rainfall that we've had over the last day or the last 24 hours has basically caused the pipes to perhaps burst, which has caused flooding, and the possible chances of a building behind us that may collapse.
You